listening to the VMX Show, Season 5.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the VMX Show. This is Season 5, Episode 11, the penultimate episode of Season 5. So, we're just going to be going through it now. I took last week off. Did not get the chance to do the VMX Show last week, so we got a lot to go over, a lot of questions and comments, some news. So let's get to the questions and comments right away. Let's see what we have here. Vitali97 sent me a message saying, "Hey Necro, great videos as always. I was wondering what your opinions are towards Guns N' Roses." Why do people care about my... Alright, whatever. I love this band and I was curious as to what you thought may or may not happen at the Hall of Fame this year, considering Axl Rose and Slash both said they will not show up. I really don't care about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think that entire institution is a travesty and a mockery of everything about rock and roll. As for Guns N' Roses themselves, I think that they started off really strong. The Appetite for Destruction album was really good. And then after that, it kind of dwindled. You know, they had the EP, that was okay. And then they had the Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, which really didn't need to be 2 CDs. They could have cut out some of the, we'll say, shitty songs and combined that into one very strong album. But instead, they just released everything that they wrote. The Spaghetti album was good, but it was just cover songs, and then nothing for a really, really long time. And then Chinese Democracy, which was sort of the Duke Nukem Forever of the music world, except it actually did turn out good. The first 2 songs were kind of crappy, but then after that it got a lot better. I think it's actually the best work they've done, but I don't know about Guns N' Roses in general. I mean, I think they're kind of overrated. Yeah, sorry to say. Moving along here, let's see. We got a lot of comments on last week's video. Let's see. What do you think... Oh, this is Josie Greg. What do you think of the Mega Man Zero games? What is your favorite cake? Why am I getting these stupid questions? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? I mean, come on, really? Mega Man Zero series is fine. Favorite cake? I haven't given it any thought. I don't know. Chocolate cake? Regular cake? I don't really give that much thought. Also, don't you think the walrus is an amazing animal? No, I've never been amazed by walruses. I guess they're kind of cool, but I don't think about walruses very often. Dark Hill Pick 28 says, "What's your opinion on comedian Bill Maher?" Oh boy. "I dig political humor, both correct and incorrect, but there's something about his comedy that I don't find funny or amusing. To me, he's one of those comedians that makes you want to scratch your head." Oh, scratch you head is what he said. Bill Maher used to be funny, but then he got really political and he forgot how to be funny. Like, you could do political humor and still be funny, and I think when he was doing the show Politically Correct and he was trying to be at least somewhat serious about it, it was a pretty good show. But then he moved on to his current show, and it's just ridiculous. And, you know, honestly, when it comes to political humor, it can be done, but it's difficult because if the audience doesn't agree with you, then they're not going to find you funny. So basically, you're only going to be pandering and telling people what they already think. Let's see. Savage Broadcast says, "Cool story about the confusing store, Necro, but you missed my second question." I didn't miss it. I skipped it. I guess I love when people think I have to read and answer what they say, but let's read it just because why not? People will be curious. "Are there any films based on TV shows you like or think are tolerable?" Yeah, the South Park movie was good. The X-Files movie was good. There's a few others. For the most part, they're crap, but there are good ones here and there. Also, do you like musicals? Absolutely not. Frey Kugel says, "Great show, Necro. Question: have you played any adults-only rated games? If so, which ones? And what is the... well, I'll answer that first. AO rating, they're really rare. I haven't actually played any games rated AO by the ESRB. I haven't actually seen any. You know, they don't sell them in GameStop. They don't sell them in Walmart. So, there's not a whole lot of those. What's the best stealth game you've ever played? I'm not usually a big stealth game fan, but I did like the Tenchu games, particularly the first one. I thought it kind of went awry after that. The original Tenchu on PlayStation 1 was a really cool stealth game. Skata Legend 14 says, "Necro, my question is, what do you think about the rumors on Mitt Romney and Ron Paul being partners in the electoral debate? Love the show, it's awesome." I don't know about that. I've never even heard that rumor. Being partners? I don't see it. I really don't. I don't see it at all. It would be cool if they could team up and take down Rick Santorum, but I've never heard that rumor, so I don't think there's any truth to that at all. Josie Greg says, I know I'm not supposed to post more than once, but you could post more than once. It's let me address this. I don't know where you got this idea that you can't post more than once. I just prefer that if you have a bunch of questions that you try and consolidate it into one post. It's less confusing that way, but if you do want to post again, you can do it. I stared at this video from beginning to end without doing anything else. Okay. The Last Samurai 14 says, great episode, Necro. I'm similar to the guest in that I do Let's Play videos as well. I'm also like to be on the show at some point. Not right now, but at some point in the future. Just keep that in mind. Alright, whatever. Razarath92 said, great episode. You mentioned Tool as being a band that you don't like, but you appreciate what they did for music. No, I never said that. Don't put words in my mouth. I said I think they suck, and that they accidentally created a genre that I like. Accidentally. Other people made it good. Can you think of any other bands you like that? Alright, you're going to have to resubmit that so that it makes sense. Cheergiver, that's my friend Brandy. She says, hey, I really like your stuff, but I can't seem to steal it. Can you help, Herp Derp? Yeah, that was in reference to the guy, I forget his username, but there was a guy who, on the last episode, I read a question from him, or really just a comment, it wasn't a question, saying that he was annoyed that he couldn't seem to find a torrent file for Chronicles of a Dark Lord, basically meaning that he's trying to steal it and coming to one of the developers and bitching about that, which is hilarious. Got a few comments about that. I was hoping that guy would come back and comment, but it doesn't seem he did. The Emperor of Nothing also commented on this. He says, as someone who legally bought Chronicles of a Dark Lord from the developer's own website, that guy who has to find a torrent to steal a copy of Kotal needs to take his head out of his rectum and leave this planet before he infects anyone else with his unique brand of stupidity. Fucking bozo. Owned. Owned by the Emperor of Nothing. Let's see. I don't understand. Okay, I see what's going on. Hans Fartnacher said, what is the funniest thing that happened to you at school? And then Shadow Ruler 98 replied, he was my guest in the last episode. It says me or him. No, the questions are for me, dude. The questions are not for the guests. If you want to ask the guests questions, go to their channels and ask them the question. That's why I provide links to the guest channels. But he did give his... funniest thing that happened to him at school was some idiot took some of my food at lunch. I smacked him right in his prick face. Well, that's not really funny. So hopefully I could top that. Let's see, funniest thing. A lot of funny things happened when I'm back in school, but you got to remember this is like 15 years ago. So let me see if I can remember something really good. Actually, okay, here's one from my college days. This is really funny. When I was in my first year of college, I was in freshman English 1, and I had this teacher, Mr. Opalicki. And Mr. Opalicki was, not to put too fine a point on it, a moron. I don't know how this guy got to teach at a college. Now, yeah, it was a state college, but it was still a college, you know. I mean, you figure they would have some standards, and they wouldn't get some guy who's a total knob handler and just come in and teach the wrong things, basically. I mean, this was a guy who would tell us we wrote a lot of essays. That seemed to be like what the class was, just essay after essay after essay. And I don't know, like he would tell us things like don't put so many metaphors in. And don't put any metaphors in because he didn't understand them. He had a hard time understanding metaphors. This was not the first time, but the first time in college that I definitely felt I was smarter than the teacher. And there was one other guy in the class who was about on my level. And, he was at least as smart as I am, possibly smarter. And he also would just basically wreck this teacher's shit constantly. Like right after the metaphor comment, he went ahead and wrote this essay that was just nothing but metaphors, and it just drove Opalicki crazy. We would, let me tell you one thing that we would do. We hated his class because he was such a knob. He would basically talk about nothing for the first 5 to 10 minutes of the class and then eventually get to his lesson. He was just talking about like his life, and unfortunately his life was not interesting. But then he'd be like, "Oh my God, we got no time left," you know. So because then his stories would get longer and longer. So we actually started to fiddle with the clock, which is something that you don't really do in college. It's something you do in like junior high. You know, you fiddle with the clock so that the teacher doesn't know what time it is, because you figured that a college professor would not fall for this. And he fell for it all right. Put the clock ahead by like 15 minutes. At first it was like 2 minutes, and then it was like 5 minutes, and then it was like 10 minutes. Pretty soon we had it like 20 minutes ahead. You think he had to have noticed something. Eventually, when we got to about 20 minutes ahead, because then it would be 20 minutes ahead, he'd come in, he wouldn't look at the clock, he'd just start into his story. So he'd talk for 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. So then it would be 45 minutes into the period, and then he'd look at the clock, because they were an hour long. And then he would see that he only had a little bit of time left. And basically he got nothing done. So, of course, he had more than that time left because the clock was off. So then the idiot went ahead and announced that he thinks we're tampering with the clock, and he was going to go, next time he was going to check the clock in the hall. Now, why he would announce that and not just do it is beyond me. Like I said, he's a moron. So, of course, we fixed the clock in the hall, and then he apologized to us. That was the best part. But that wasn't the story I meant to tell. I just wanted to set the tableau for how stupid this guy was. So that wasn't the story. That was pretty funny. But the story is, we were writing these essay, and I forgot exactly what it was about, but I wrote my essay, and he was reading excerpts of essays out loud that had been handed in, and he doesn't say who wrote what because he didn't want anybody to, be embarrassed or anything. So he would just read a part of an essay and then have, ask questions about, okay, what did the person who wrote this mean, and that kind of thing. So I was bored out of my skull because I didn't find him to be interesting, and I didn't find most of the essays to be interesting. But then all of a sudden I started hearing my own words. He was reading mine. Now, usually he avoided reading mine because of our little rivalry. But this time, I don't think he realized what he was doing, and he started reading mine, and it was, I forgot what the subject was, but it was a heavily sarcastic essay, and I don't mean sarcastic in the sense of just being a knob about it, but I was using sarcasm as a literary device quite heavily, and quite obviously, too, I thought. So he asks, okay, what does this person mean in this paragraph? And this girl raises her hand, and she interprets it absolutely perfectly, says exactly what I was saying, because she was smart and understood what I was getting at. And she says, well, whoever wrote this is being very sarcastic, and what they really mean is blah, 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 blah. And she got it perfectly. And then he decided he was going to correct her because he had misinterpreted what I wrote. He was going to tell her what the author really meant. So I couldn't stand by and let this happen. I don't care if anybody knows what I wrote, I was proud of what I wrote. So, but I decided to not make him out to be too much of a moron. So I said, I raised my hand. He says, yes, John. And I said, well, actually, she was right. It was sarcastic. Now, he's holding the paper in his hands. He knows who wrote it. He's looking right at me. He's looking at the paper. You figure that any intelligent teacher, much less a college professor, would put 2 and 2 together and say, okay, the person who wrote this essay is talking to me and telling me that the previous person was correct. And obviously I'm wrong. Does he admit to being wrong? No. He looks me straight in the eye and says, how would you know? And I was incredulous. I mean, I never imagined that somebody would be quite that ass-tarded and be teaching people, So I looked right at him for a few seconds like what the fuck, are you serious? And eventually I said, because I wrote it, you idiot. And everybody, laughed at him, which was great. So that's the funniest thing that ever happened to me at a school. A lot better than some idiot took my food and I smacked him. I mean, that's not funny. Anyway, moving on. Future Gamer 24. By the way, that's an example of a really, really good question, by the way. Future Gamer 24 says, hey, Nick, great episode, and it's kind of sweet that young kids are making videos like yours. Anyway, my question is, since I heard you say the original L which is from an anime called Death Note. Did you watch it? Because it's a great anime. I don't watch anime. I don't like anime. I've never seen Death Watch. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I said that made you think that, but I'm going to move on. Mr. Go Lucky Fish says, I'm actually astonished that someone would be stupid enough to tell the maker of a game that they want to steal it. Not only that, but they're having trouble stealing it and they need your help to find a torrent of it. People these days. Yeah. I Fuck Like an Animal says, do you like Whose Line Is It Anyway? If so, what is your favorite game from the show? I did. I actually preferred the older version with Clive Anderson. Not to take anything away from the American version with Drew Carey, which was good, but I felt that it got a little too wacky, and some of the games that I had really liked from the original version were not done. So I liked when they would take like an old movie and they would be forced to improv a voiceover for it. That was always fun. Let's see. Oh, Future Gamer responded to himself, said, don't answer, I forgot you don't like anime, lol. What? Mikhailho says, Necro sounded so seductive there while talking to Kid. What? Alright, we're just gonna hit the neuralizer. That question never happened. Let's see, Max Spender says, if a plague wiped out 99.9% of the world's population... I like questions like this. Obviously, survival would be your main priority, but as a gamer, what problems would you foresee getting your gaming fix? I'm thinking if you joined a community who refused to use fuel for gaming, would you be reduced to battery-powered handhelds like the Game Gear? And how would you cope with the knowledge that there would never be another new release in your lifetime? Well, you kind of... he also mentioned... I should probably have mentioned that you're part of the 0.1% that survives a plague. Well, obviously. Otherwise, I would be like, no, I'm dead. You answered the question yourself in the very first sentence where you said survival would be your main priority. I wouldn't be worried about video games. So, moving on. Moat Sos, or maybe it's Moat SOS1, says, Hi, Necro, enjoyed your last show as I always do. Thank you for answering my questions. This time I have a philosophical question for you. Oh, this is interesting. Do people stop playing games because they grow old, or they grow old because they stop playing video games? Thank you again for your great show, and please excuse my spelling. English is not my native language. Actually, I really don't see any major spelling errors. You spell a lot better than the people who speak English as their first language. So that's kind of sad for the people who grew up in an English-speaking country. I don't know where you're from. Your channel doesn't seem to... Oh, you're from Mexico. Okay, yeah. So we have a native Spanish speaker who speaks English, or at least writes English better than a lot of people who grew up in America or England or Australia or any other American. Don't worry about it. So let's see. So basically, it's not quite a philosophical question, but it's a sort of almost a rhetorical question. People don't stop playing video games because they grow old, because people who grew up playing it usually continue to play it. Do people grow old because they stop playing video games? That's interesting. It's sort of like the thought that when people become what they never thought they would, like when you're a kid or a teenager and you look at certain stodgy old adults and you say, I'm never going to become like that, and then if you do, it's like, how did I become this? And it's like, how did I forget how to have fun? How did I forget how to play? I think that actually does happen, so I would go with the latter in that case. Moving along, let's see. GamePlayer596 forgive my penchant for grammar and cohesiveness, but the title says episode 9 when it's 10. Yeah, I had mislabeled it. I don't know how he was the first person to notice that. How did nobody notice that? I also believe you skipped over Uber McPhailSauce's comment from last episode regarding vampire stories. Well, I first off, so what? You know what I mean? Second off, I couldn't find his question anyway. I was actually looking for it today to see, because I did want to answer it, because when I saw the question, I thought it was interesting, but I couldn't find it. I don't know if he deleted it, but there you go. I do remember what his question was. I don't remember the exact wording, but I do remember it. So why don't I tackle this now, actually? Uber McPhilsauce had submitted a comment which I now can't seem to find. And I didn't get to it last week because I had a guest. Last episode. He asked, which historical figure do I think had more of an impact on vampire myths? And the choices were Vlad Tepes, who also known as Dracula, and Elizabeth Bathory. Now, certainly Vlad Tepes was the inspiration for Dracula, and Bram Stoker used the name and parts of history when he created that book and that story. But I gotta go with Elizabeth Bathory, because she was the closest thing that we ever had in our history to a real-life vampire. This was somebody who, slaughtered young virgin girls and bathed in their blood. I mean, she was a sick fuck. So there you go. Alright, so moving on with Gameplayer 596 says, that aside, you alluded during the chat to the guest the original Mega Man was a very difficult game. Would you ever consider a feature of you playing through hard games, or maybe just iconic, very hard parts? I don't necessarily mean poorly designed games, but that's usually the case. Well, I have done a playthrough of Mega Man and other hard games, and kind of went back and forth here, but I'm not going to read all that. I'm just going to move on here. The Gameable says, what is your favorite Pokemon and why? I don't play Pokemon. I don't have any interest in it. Moving on. WWE Nintendo Fan 01 says, LOL XDXDX. Oh god. Ha 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 ha. I laugh my ass off with the answer of a question that said, I send you, am I gay one? XDXD. It was a joke. How is that a joke? That's not a joke. It's just stupid. Okay, now another session of random questions. Let's see. Question number 1, what is your favorite vegetable? Broccoli. Number 2, nerds or M&Ms? M&Ms, definitely. And number 3, if you can only eat one of these 3 things, what would you choose? Meat, fish, or chicken? Oh, fish. Love fish. Okay, moving on. Dave Cornfan says, great episode, as always. Necro, thanks for the PSP game suggestions. Wow, that was a long list of games that your guest had. In fact, it almost felt like an episode of the List Critics. Has a game ever truly angered you for any reason other than being too difficult? I don't really get pissed off at games for being too difficult as long as they were designed that way. I get pissed off when the solutions are very obtuse, and that often happened in the past because of bad translations and whatnot. So no, not really. Let's see. Corn MO, or maybe it's Corn M0, I don't know. It says, thank you for answering my question. I would have to agree with you that Nightfall and Middle-earth and At the Edge of Time are 2 of their best albums. I never said At the Edge of Time. But I am also very partial to... Oh, is that the new one? I did say I liked the new one. I didn't say it was one of their best, though. But I'm also very partial to Imaginations from the Other Side, though I do enjoy all their albums. I don't listen to A Night at the Opera nearly as much and would say that it's my 5th favorite. It's a heavy album. It's a lot to take in at once. It's almost like sensory overload, so I can understand that. Banny Jesser, says, what is the best console RTS game that you've played? I haven't really played that many, but I consider Pikmin to be along in that genre, and that's definitely the best. Or Pikmin 2 was even better, so there you go. So let's move on. Red Devil Desi 2007 says, good episode, Necro. Keep up the good work. It was interesting to hear Casey's list of games he's planning on doing. So here's his 3 numbered questions. Number 1, if the world ended tomorrow, very unlikely, which game would be the last one you'll want to play? Well, assuming that I know the world is going to end, I'm not going to be playing games. So if I didn't know it was going to end, it would be whatever I happened to be playing at the time, which I don't know what it would be. So there you go. Number 2, what is the funniest prank you've pulled? Oh, I might have told this story already. I'm going to move on. I'm going to come back to it, but I want to answer his 3rd question. So his 3rd question is an easy one. 3rd question is, have you ever seen anyone steal a game and try to stop them, for example, in a store, etc.? No, I've never actually been witness to that, so no. I would try to stop them. but I've never actually seen it. And he still says, I was hoping you would mention some news about Journey, an upcoming PlayStation 3 game which is looking promising. It's by that game company. Well, I haven't heard about it. So, all right, funniest prank I've ever pulled. Okay, this was a few years ago. Actually, it was more like 10 years ago. Jesus fucking Christ, where's the time gone? All right, so it's like 10 years ago. It was around... Yeah, it was around like 2002 or so. And maybe a little later. But, okay, so I was on the internet, and I was talking to my friend Andrew. And I was also talking to my friend Brandon. And my friend Andrew was complaining that there was this girl he was talking to who was really, really annoying, and he just wanted her to go away. He just wanted her to stop talking to him. But the problem was, she was a really nice person. You know, one of those people that's nice but annoying. So she was really nice, and he didn't want to just tell her to fuck off because he felt like he would be being mean. So he asks me if I could scare her off for him. So, oh man, you're going to love this. I'm sorry if I've told this story before, and anybody who's hearing it for a second time, but it is funny. So anyway, I get her screen name, and I start IMing her, and I have a lot of alternate screen names that I used to use for pranks. I love being a prankster. These days I would just use Omegle to prank people, but back in the day I would make extra screen names and IM people. So I have one called Spirit of Zappa, which is sort of like where I act like I'm Frank Zappa and I say random lyrics and stuff like that. Anyway, so I start IMing her a whole bunch of random nonsense. And she's all like, oh my god, you're so funny. And I'm like, oh man, Andrew was right. This fucking chick's annoying. So anyway, I'm doing the whole Zappa routine, you know. And she's asking me all the typical girl questions, like, what kind of music do you listen to? And I said, well, I'm a musician. My name is Frank Zappa. Have you ever heard of me? And I never heard of you. And I'm like, really? I have like 80 albums, and I've been around for a really long time. Oh, really? So then I'm like linking her to like the Frank Zappa website and like showing her YouTube videos of Frank Zappa and all this crap. And, well, I was before YouTube. It was E-Bombs World or something. I don't know. It was before YouTube, but I did find a video clip. YouTube was only around in 2006, and this is either 2002 or 3, somewhere around there. So it wasn't a YouTube video. But I was showing her clips, and I think I might have sent her a song, and talking about, you know, all the albums and everything. But I'm acting like I'm Frank Zappa and I did all this. And she falls for it, hook, line, and sinker. She absolutely believes everything that I'm saying. So then I get my friend Brandon in on it. Remember, I was talking to him at the same time, and I was like, dude, you gotta IM this chick. She's fucking stupid. So he starts IMing her. Now, for some reason, with Brandon, immediately she starts hitting on him. And she's like trying to angle towards a little, the old cyber sexerino. And he is not only not interested, but he thinks that there's something wrong with her. So he starts messing with her. Just being all like, you know, I don't care, and just not answering her questions and being kind of a jerk. And of course, she finds this to be incredibly attractive, so she just becomes more aggressive, going for the peen, right? So then, and she doesn't realize that we're talking to each other and that we're synchronizing everything perfectly. And this is where the prank part comes in. This is where we drop the bomb. She asks him the typical girl question, you know, what kind of music do you listen to? And I was like, dude, tell her your favorite musician is Frank Zappa. So he's like, oh, you know, I listen to all kinds of music. I really like Frank Zappa. And he names a couple other bands and whatnot. And she's like kind of flabbergasted because she thinks she's talking to Frank Zappa. So she's like, oh, really? I'm talking to Frank Zappa. And he's like, what are you talking about? No, you're not. And she's like, really? He IM'd me. I'm talking to Frank Zappa right now. So then we synchronize this perfectly. He says Frank Zappa died in 1993, which is true. Frank Zappa's been dead for a while. And then, like 10 seconds after he sends that IM to her, I say to her as Frank Zappa, you know, my fans think that I'm gone, but I'm going to be coming back soon. She completely flips her shit. Completely loses it. Starts getting really freaked out. Oh my god, you're scaring me! Oh my god! And I'm just like, don't you dare tell anyone. And she's all like, ah, stop it, you're scaring me. And I'm like, I'm pretty much immortal. I will come back, release another 50 albums, and then die again and take another vacation. And she signed off the internet, never came back. Andrew was like, well, she's gone. What did you do? I told him, and he's like, oh my God, you traumatized this poor woman. Probably more like a girl. She was probably like 16 years old. But anyway, yeah, that was probably the best prank I've ever pulled, because not only did I frighten someone off of the internet, but they never came back, at least not on that screen name. So moving along here. Gamer Eternal 777 says, I don't think that you or the rest of Kazara Studios understands how eager fans of Kotal are for Episode 2 to come out. Allow me to enlighten you, yes? The day that Episode 2 is released is the day that I put down Mass Effect 3, Skyrim, Battlefield 3, and Final Fantasy 13 2. No joke, man. I know it's been asked before, but I'd be doing Kotal fans a disservice if I don't ask release date, or at least release season. I cannot give you a release date because we do not have a release date. It's done when it's done is kind of our motto. Right now we're shooting for third quarter of this year, so that's the closest I can tell you. If you want more info, I would recommend you go check out the video that I put up yesterday, which was the emptyapartment.net stream. Moving along. Razarath92 posted a comment that he removed. Why do you guys remove your comments? I'm just going to look them up in my email and see what it was. Let's see. Alright, we're going to search for Razarath92. We're going to search for VMX Show Episode 10. Okay, here it is. What do you think of YouTube users like the Archfiend and Undertaker Freak 1127 who have grown their entire fan base by mocking other YouTube users? Personally, I think they're taking YouTube way too seriously. I don't think they're taking it seriously at all. I think they're trolling, and I think that there's always going to be a market for that. It's personally not what I want to watch. It's just a whole bunch of bitching and whining. If you make a channel and your entire reason for making the channel is to mock somebody else, then you really got to get a fucking life. Galaga Junkie, this is funny. He says, don't like the Ramones? Unsubscribed. Good day, sir. You're a goddamn idiot. What do you... I can't subscribe to somebody that doesn't like the same shitty band that I do. Bah. Moving on. Gameplayer596 says, I actually have a definitive question this time. What are your thoughts on the I can't get through this, can I? Alright, what are your thoughts on the Jazz Jackrabbit series? I'm very fond of the whole thing, and the second game took up a lot of time as my kid. I like them. Moving on. MiniBro11 says, have you ever watched any anime? Yeah, hated it. Moving along. Badass Power Fist says, out of the systems you take requests for, which one is the hardest to emulate? I've recently had some issues with certain games on the Atari 5200, but actually, I did have the Jaguar on there, and that was very hard to emulate, and I found that every 5 games that I would get, one would work, and then out of the ones that worked, 4 out of 5 of them would have major glitches or they would crash. So I actually stopped taking Jaguar requests because it just doesn't work. So there you go. Nettlebox says, are there any bad games you enjoy? Bad meaning a game that the controls aren't great, the graphics were poor even when released, and or the gameplay is repetitious, but you still found the game to be fun. Well, the definition of a bad game is one that's not fun. So there you go. Moving along. Emilister left a 3 comment. Oh, it's all one long thing. Let's see. Hey, Necro, after a long time no comment from me, still wanted to tell you a few things after listening to recent episodes. I noticed how pissed off you get after someone asks your opinion about certain games. Yeah, they're boring questions. I don't want to answer them. But the thing is, we are your fans, and we ask because we want to know your honest opinion about stuff, because you know about certain stuff, and you have probably some kind of thoughts about the game you were asked to comment on. Not here to insult you or anything. And I understand everyone has a free choice of not doing something if they don't want to, but maybe you shouldn't be so angry. Dude, don't tell me how to feel. You're an asshole. Alright, move on. He does have some questions. What is the most disappointing ending for a game you have ever seen? I was recently disappointed with Mass Effect 3's ending. Yeah, you and everybody else. It's just 7 minutes long for my more than 60-hour investment, and the plot holes are just amazing. For those 7 minutes, there are more holes than in a fucking center of Swiss cheese. The rest of the game is epic, though. Most disappointing ending? Oh, man. I've been disappointed by a lot of endings. I think that Probably the biggest disappointing ending was Super Mario 64 because it's one of the worst endings to a pretty fucking good game. It's like, yeah, you saved the princess, okay, let's go bake a cake. And I'm like, you fucking asshole. Number 2, would you ever consider Skyrim LP? I am enjoying the Dragon Age LP so much, and of course, thanks for filling those lonely evenings like a bow. Oh, I'm not saying that, no way. Skyrim? Not in the near future. I would definitely do it, but not anytime soon. Sorry to say. If I was to LP any Elder Scrolls game, I would probably start with Morrowind. So that's all the questions and comments I have for this week. Let's get to the news. I do have a lot of news because it's 2 weeks worth of news, so let's get to that. I've been talking a lot about Darkstalkers and the possibility of some sort of revival, and definitely lean towards, if there was to be a Darkstalkers revival, that it would probably be something along the lines of a HD re-release or remake. And there are a lot of rumors about that. But Darkstalkers 4 may actually happen. So there is a very strong rumor that is unconfirmed, but it says that Darkstalkers 4 is allegedly being in the works over at Capcom using a modified version of the Street Fighter Cross Tekken engine. So no news as to whether or not that's actually true, but I will keep you guys informed. I know a lot of people are looking forward to the South Park game. Now, I do have 2 pieces of news that have to do with the South Park game. One has to do with the developer of the South Park game, Obsidian, who is being affected and might actually be delayed because of this. They've gone through huge layoffs due to the fact that their previous game, Fallout New Vegas, they don't get any royalties for it. They had a deal where they got a very little amount of money for developing Fallout New Vegas, and that they would get a bonus from the publisher, which was Bethesda, if they got an 85 on Metacritic, and I assume they had to wait a certain amount of time and then see where the Metacritic score stood at, and then if they had an 85 or more, they would get this big bonus. Well, they did not get the big bonus because as of right now, the Metacritic score for Fallout New Vegas is an 84. That one hurts. But if you are really looking forward to the new South Park game, it might be delayed because of this. Well, I can say that there is another South Park game coming out called South Park Tenderman's Revenge, which is a multiplayer, 2-dimensional platformer, kind of in the style of, say, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. And this is coming out for I believe Xbox Live Arcade and PSN. I don't really have actually just Xbox Live Arcade, coming out later this year. It looks like a lot of fun, so you might want to check that out. Now, I do have the winners from 2 different award shows. I have the Game Developers Choice Awards and I have the BAFTAs. Let's do the Game Developers Choice Awards first. I will tell you what won. Game of the Year went to The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim from Bethesda Game Studios, beating out Batman Arkham City, Portal 2, Deus Ex, and Dark Souls. Best Narrative went to Portal 2 from Valve, beating out The Witcher 2, Bastion, Uncharted 3, and Saints Row III. Best Game Design also went to Portal 2 from Valve, beating out Skyrim, Skyward Sword, Arkham City, and Dark Souls. Best Technology went to Battlefield 3 from DICE, beating out LA Noire, Crysis 2, Skyrim, and Uncharted 3. Best Visual Arts went to Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception from Naughty Dog, beating out Rayman Origins, Skyrim, El Shaddai, and Battlefield 3. Best Debut went to Supergiant Games, the developer of Bastion, beating out Team Bondi, who made LA Noire, Relogic, who made Terraria, BioWare Austin, who made Star Wars The Old Republic, and Eidos Montreal, who made Deus Ex Human Revolution. The Innovation Award went to Johann Sebastian Joust for Die Gute Fabrik, beating out Skylanders, Spyro's Adventures, Portal 2, Bastion, and LA Noire. Best Handheld or Mobile Game went to Super Brothers Sword and Sorcerer EP from Cappy Games and Super Brothers, beating out Tiny Tower, Super Mario 3D Land, Jetpack Joyride, and Infinity Blade 2. Best Audio went to Portal 2 from Valve, beating out Bastion, Little Big Planet 2, Skyrim, and Dead Space 2. Best Downloadable Game went to Bastion from Supergiant Games, beating out Stacking, From Dust, Outland, and Frozen Synapse. The Lifetime Achievement winner was Warren Spector. The Pioneer Award winner was Dave Thurer, and the Ambassador Award winner was Ken Darashaw and Paul M. Smith. So that was the winners of the GDC Game Developer Choice Awards. I do have the BAFTA winners here. Let me bring that up. Okay, so the BAFTA, in case you're not familiar, is the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. They do have a video game section, so we're going to do that. Best Action Game went to Batman Arkham City, beating out Assassin's Creed Revelations, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Deus Ex Human Revolution, Portal 2, and Uncharted 3. Best Artistic Achievement went to Rayman Origins, beating out Arkham City, LA Noire, Little Big Planet 2, Skyrim, and Uncharted 3. Audio Achievement went to Battlefield 3, beating out Batman Arkham City, Modern Warfare 3, Dead Space 2, The Nightjar, and Uncharted 3. Best Game went to Portal 2, beating out Batman Arkham City, FIFA 2012, LA Noire, Skyrim, and Skyward Sword. Best Debut Game went to Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet, beating out Bastion, Euphoria, LA Noire, Monster Mind, and Rift. Best Design went to Portal 2, beating out Arkham City, LA Noire, Little Big Planet 2, Super Mario 3D Land, and Skyrim. Best Family Game went to Little Big Planet 2, beating out Dance Central 2, Kinect Sports 2, Lego Pirates of the Caribbean, Lego Star Wars 3, and Mario Kart 7. Best Game Innovation went to Little Big Planet 2, beating out Bastion, Child of Eden, From Dust, LA Noire, and Skyward Sword. Best Mobile or Handheld Game went to Peggle HD, beating out Dead Space iOS, Magnetic Billiards, Quarrel, Super Mario 3D Land, and The Nightjar. Best Online or Browser Game went to Best Online Browser Game went to Monster Mind, beating out Gardens of Time, I Am Player, Global Resistance, Skylanders, Spyro's Universe, and The Sims Social. Best Online Multiplayer Game went to Battlefield 3, beating out Assassin's Creed Revolutions, Modern Warfare 3, Dark Souls, Gears of War 3, and Little Big Planet 2. Best Original Music went to LA Noire, beating out Assassin's Creed Revelations, Arkham City, Deus Ex, Skyrim, and Uncharted 3. Best Performer went to Mark Hamill for his role as the Joker in Batman Arkham City, beating out Aaron Staton from LA Noire, Nolan North, who played Nathan Drake in Uncharted 3, Stephen Fry, who was the narrator for Little Big Planet 2, Stephen Merchant, who played Wheatley in Portal 2, and Togo Igawa, who played the diplomat, advisor, and military general in Total War Shogun 2. Best Sports or Fitness Game went to Dance Central 2, that beat out Dirt 3, F1 2011, FIFA 2012, Kinect Sports 2, and Your Shape Fitness Evolve 2012. Best Story went to Portal 2. Portal 2 kind of swept these awards. That beat out Arkham City, Deus Ex, LA Noire, Skyrim, and Uncharted 3. Best Strategy Game went to Total War Shogun 2. That beat out Dark Souls, Deus Ex, Football Manager 2012, From Dust, and Ghost Recon Shadow Wars. The BAFTA Ones to Watch Award in association with Dare to Be Digital went to TikTok Toys, beating out Dreamweaver and Joust. And the Game Award of 2011 went to Battlefield 3, which beat out Arkham City, Modern Warfare 3, FIFA 2012, LA Noire, Minecraft, Portal 2, Skyrim, Skyward Sword, and Drake's Deception. I found the BAFTA Awards to be highly controversial. Very interesting how that worked out there. Interesting that Portal 2 pretty much swept almost every award that it was nominated for. Now, I mentioned Game as in the Game Game of the Year award. Game is in the British retailer Game. They've been having some problems. Well, now they're for sale. So, if you're looking to buy a game retailer, Game is for sale. They've been having such financial problems. They've been unable to stock high-profile titles like Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Ashura's Wrath, Mass Effect 3, any Ubisoft title, any EA title, which of course just adds to their problems because people don't want to shop there because they don't have the latest hot games. So there you go. Good news for people looking for more DLC for Final Fantasy 13-2. This, of course, we have the Saz DLC. There is a Snow and Lightning DLCs on the way. Well, there is another fighter that you can add to your roster. Jill Nobbut from Final Fantasy 13 will be available as a DLC Coliseum battle, much in the way of Omega was and Lightning in Amadar was. So you can check that out. That should actually be out already for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 for 240 Microsoft points or $3 on PlayStation Network. So there you go. Do you guys remember those old FMV games from the 90s? Yeah, we try to forget that. Well, there was one called Mad Dog McCree, which was a light gun game for arcade. I don't know why, but for some reason this is coming out for the 3DS. I just wanted to mention that because it's so stupid. If you guys remember the lawsuit between the makers of the game Scrolls and Bethesda, the makers of the Elder Scrolls, Bethesda claimed, you can't name your game Scrolls, it's too close to Elder Scrolls. Well, this stupid fucking lawsuit is finally over. It's been settled. I think that, honestly, they got the short end of the stick here. Mojang, who made Scrolls, can release the game as it is, and they can't call it Scrolls. However, they have to give the trademark of Scrolls to Bethesda, and they cannot make an Elder Scrolls competitor using the name, which they didn't plan on doing. I don't know why Bethesda thinks that they deserve the trademark. I think it's ridiculous. The whole lawsuit was nonsense, but there you go. That's what's happening. There may be a new Donkey Kong game coming out for the 3DS. There have been pre-order boxes popping up in retailers that say Donkey Kong 3D. No details on that, really. I have really nothing to tell you about that. I can tell you that rumors of a Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3X are false. Capcom claims there will not be another update to Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I don't know how true that is, though, because they've claimed there would not be updates to Street Fighter 4 past Super Street Fighter 4, and there has been quite a few, so there you go. One of the hottest downloadable titles out there, free downloadable titles out there in the last week has been Mario, where the O in Mario is a 0. It's a mixture of Mario and Portal. Basically, it's Super Mario Brothers where you have a portal gun. A lot of fun. Well, if you're going to download it, and I do recommend you download it, make sure you get it from the developer's website, which is stabyourself.net. Downloading it from anywhere else is very, very dangerous because apparently there have been copies of the game out there infected with malware and viruses. So if you want a safe version of Mario with portal guns, definitely go over to stabyourself.net and get it directly from the developer. It is free. Good news for Xbox Live Arcade game developers. You can now have a deeper well of gamer points for your games. So apparently Xbox Live Arcade games starting next month will have up to 400 points worth of gamer score points through a maximum of 30 achievements. So previously it was up to 200 gamer points with 12 achievements. So there you go. Let's see, I already talked about Obsidian getting downsized. Oh, here's great news for fans of Ys, and you know I'm a huge fan of the Ys series. Well, let's say you really like Ys, but you don't have a PSP or a DS, and you want to play some of these new Ys games. Well, Ys the Oath and Falgana and Ys Origin, which actually was not on the PSP and was only ever on PC, are being released for PC via Steam. Ys the Oath and Falgana will come out March 19th for $14.99. That's tomorrow. So there you go. And Ys Origin is also being planned to be released on Steam. I do not have a release date for that, though. So there you go. What I do have a release date for, and I did talk about this previously, is House of the Dead 4 is coming to PlayStation Network. You can get it for your PS3. It is coming out on April 17th for $10, so that is the first time that House of the Dead 4 will hit a console. Monster World 4, which was the last game in the Monster World series, which was connected to the Wonder Boy series, except Monster World 4 had a female protagonist, so it didn't have the Wonder Boy moniker. It was just Monster World 4. That had never been released outside of America. Well, it finally will be released outside of America, and it won't be by itself. Xbox Live Marketplace will be getting Sega Vintage Collection Monster World, which will get Monster Boy and Wonder Boy and Monsterland, Wonder Boy and Monster World, and Monster World 4, all together for Xbox Live Arcade, which will be happening on April 25th. So that's what's happening there. If you guys have been following video game misconceptions, I did recently talk about AAA titles and how AAA has nothing to do with quality. It only has to do with budget. Well, I can tell you that possibly the highest budget title ever is happening, because this is coming from Microsoft, and they are currently working on a title. Don't know what it is, but they are working on a title that they describe as a quadruple A budget title. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe I don't know. Maybe they mean like it's about Fonzie. Hey, that was terrible. I can't believe I made that joke. Microsoft is once again slapping down rumors of a new Xbox, saying that 2012 is all about the Xbox 360 and that you will not see any announcements of a new console at E3 or anytime this year. So there you go. Seems that everyone's doing enhanced editions of games. If you're interested in enhanced editions of Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2 Enhanced Edition. Now, we had known that Baldur's Gate was getting an Enhanced Edition, but Baldur's Gate 2 Enhanced Edition was stealth revealed by Trent Oster over from BioWare over on his Twitter. So apparently that is happening. Remember the Neo Geo Pocket? Of course you don't. But it did exist. There was a Neo Geo Pocket. Apparently we're getting another Neo Geo handheld called the Neo Geo X. And that it will come preloaded with about 20 Neo Geo games. And will be coming out sometime in second quarter of this year. Fans of the Lego games should be happy to know that there will be a Lego Batman 2. So that's going to be happening. I don't have too much details about Lego Batman 2. I can tell you that, apparently there's a trailer for it out there, and actually the full title is Lego Batman 2 DC Superheroes, and has other people to play as other than Batman. Apparently you could also play as Superman, so I just wanted to mention that. Diablo 3 has a release date for those of you who like always on DLC, DRM. If you do want to play this game that is going to fuck you over, it's coming out May 15th, so there you go. El Shaddai, Ascension of the Metatron, was an indie game that came out last year to much praise, and certainly one of the most unique titles. It may be getting a sequel. There's a teaser site out there that shows some new characters, and a few of them, the overall design looks very much like El Shaddai, and a few of them look like female versions of characters from El Shaddai, so there you go. There's Japanese text that says, "Who is the ultimate angel who God speaks of?" You can see this at elshaddai-sb.jp. SB may be the subtitle or whatever, so this may be happening. Who knows? Finally, I do want to talk about Street Fighter Cross Tekken a little bit. It has been released. But I can tell you that there is a DLC schedule, which I'm trying to get to right now. Of course, everybody wants to IM me right now. Okay, let's see. Yeah, here we go. All right. Sorry about this. So yeah, there will be lots of DLC coming out for Street Fighter Cross Tekken. First up, on April 3rd, there will be swap costumes. In other words, Street Fighter characters will be wearing Tekken characters' costumes and vice versa. And that'll come out for $1 or 80 Microsoft points, or 2 packs, which you can get for $13 or 1,040 Microsoft points per pack. Each individual one is $1, so you might want to get the whole package at once to save some money. There will also be free color packs and quick combos that will be released on the same day. After April, there will be an update to tournament play, and there will be some minor tweaks to gem selection, sound quality. Check out Capcom's Twitch TV channel, which you could go to twitch.tv/CapcomUnity on Monday, tomorrow, for some live coverage of what's going on there. And the biggest update is probably the one that you know about because I talked about it in the last episode, which is in the fall when the game comes out for the Vita. The remaining 12 fighters, Blanca, Sakura, Guy, Cody, Elena, Dudley, Elisa, Brian, Christy, Jack, Lars, and Lei, will be available for unlocking in exchange for $20 or 1,600 Microsoft points. So that's what's going on. There are also going to be some bug fixes and tweaks to balancing and whatnot. That's what's going on there. So, yeah, that's the news. Let's get to... actually, let's see. Let's get to the sales figures now. Okay, so let's see. I want to give the charts for last week as well because I didn't do the show last week. So going backwards here. Okay, so here we have the top 10 best-selling games for the week ending in March 2012, and we're going to start with Japan. March 4th, 2012. So highest selling game in Japan for the week ending in March 4th, 2012 was One Piece Pirate Musu for PlayStation 3. It sold 664,313 copies. Wow. Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games for the 3DS sold 43,467 copies. Harvest Moon, The Land of Origin for the 3DS sold 27,558 copies. Great Battle Full Blast for the PSP sold 24,259 copies. Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy on the 3DS sold 21,687 copies. Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS sold 19,645 copies. Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm Generations on PlayStation 3 sold 18,303 copies. Monster Hunter 3G on the 3DS sold 16,619 copies. Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS sold 15,739 copies. And Tales of the Heroes Twin Brave on the PlayStation Portable sold 12,725 copies. So the week here's the Japanese chart for the week ending in March 11th, bringing us up to date. One Piece Pirate Musu for PlayStation 3 sold 89,522 copies. Hatsune Miku and the Future Stars Project Mirai for the 3DS sold 87,963 copies. Street Fighter Cross Tekken on PlayStation 3 sold 58,856 copies. Kiddo Senshi Gundam UC for PlayStation 3 sold 51,705 copies. Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater 3D on the 3DS sold 38,958 copies. Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games on the 3DS sold 23,701 copies. Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS sold 18,278 copies. Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS sold 17,624 copies. Harvest Moon, The Land of Origin on the 3DS sold 16,645 copies, and Monster Hunter 3G on the 3DS sold 14,187 copies. So that's what's going on in Japan. So let's move on to Europe. For the week ending in March 3rd, the number one selling game in Europe was SSX on PlayStation 3, which sold 69,734 copies. SSX for Xbox 360 sold 54,494 copies. Mario Party 9 on the Wii sold 40,253 copies. Uncharted The Golden Abyss for Vita sold 34,337 copies. Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception for PlayStation 3 sold 32,699 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 for PlayStation 3 sold 26,568 copies. Just Dance 3 for the Wii sold 23,942 copies. FIFA Soccer 12 for PlayStation 3 sold 23,709 copies. Zumba Fitness for the Wii sold 20,764 copies. And Zumba Fitness 2 for the Wii sold 20,363 copies. So bringing us up to date for week ending in March 10th in Europe, the number one selling game was Mass Effect 3 for Xbox 360, which sold 311,084 copies. Mass Effect 3 for PC sold 118,488 copies. Mass Effect 3 for PlayStation 3 sold 117,867 copies. Mario Party 9 for the Wii sold 47,118 copies. SSX for PlayStation 3 sold 33,199 copies. Street Fighter Cross Tekken for PlayStation 3 sold 30,575 copies. Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception for PlayStation 3 sold 28,209 copies. SSX on the Xbox 360 sold 25,112 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on PlayStation 3 sold 22,906 copies, and FIFA Soccer 12 on the PlayStation 3 sold 22,273 copies. So that's what's going on in Europe. Moving on to America, going to the previous week of ending in March 3rd, the number one selling game was SSX on the Xbox 360, which sold 140,771 copies. SSX for PlayStation 3 sold 122,418 copies. Just Dance 3 on the Wii sold 60,416 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 for Xbox 360 sold 60,483 347 copies. Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2 for the DS sold 47,622 copies. NBA 2K12 for Xbox 360 sold 42,277 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 for PlayStation 3 sold 38,191 copies. Zumba Fitness for the Wii sold 36,191 copies. UFC Undisputed 3 for Xbox 360 sold 31,621 copies, and Kinect Adventures for Xbox 360 sold 29,052 copies. Bringing us up to date for the week ending in March 10th, 2012. In America, the number one selling game was Mass Effect 3 on the Xbox 360, which sold 1,066,947 copies. Mass Effect 3 for PlayStation 3 sold 289,941 copies. Street Fighter Cross Tekken for PlayStation 3 sold 119,669 copies. Mass Effect 3 for PC sold 114,492 copies. Street Fighter Cross Tekken on Xbox 360 sold 72,717 copies. MLB 12 The Show on PlayStation 3 sold 60,556 copies. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on the Xbox 360 sold 58,726 copies. Just Dance 3 on the Wii sold 52,869 copies. Major League Baseball 2K12 for Xbox 360 sold 51,381 copies. And Zumba Fitness on the Wii sold 39,687 copies. So globally, in the previous week, ending in March 3rd, it was One Piece Pirate Musou for PlayStation 3, SSX on PS3, SSX on 360, Just Dance 3 on the Wii, Modern Warfare 3 for Xbox 360, Modern Warfare 3 for PS3, Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games, which didn't chart in the top 10 anywhere, but added all together, made the top 10 for global. Uncharted Golden Abyss on the Vita, Mario Kart 7 on 3DS, and Zumba Fitness on the Wii. For the past week, ending in March 10th, obviously Mass Effect taking up the top three. The Xbox 360 won first, then PS3, then PC. Street Fighter Cross Tekken for PS3 and then Xbox 360. One Piece Pirate Musou, Hatami Miku and Future Stars Project Mirai, Just Dance 3, Modern Warfare 3, and SSX for PS3, rounding out the top 10 for hardware. Let's talk about hardware. Okay, so the previous week, March 3rd, 2012, I'm just going to go through all of them here. Let me go to Japan. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of clicking involved because I'm doing 2 weeks at once. So, in Japan, the top-selling console for the week ending in March 4th was the 3DS, which moved 68,423 units. The PlayStation 3 moved 63,579 units. The PlayStation Portable, 14,979 units. The Vita, 10,208 units. The Wii, 7,524 units. The DS, 1,382 units. And the Xbox 360, 1,051 units. Over in Europe for that same week, the Vita was the big seller for 93,088 units. The PlayStation 3, 66,529 units. The 3DS, 51,295 units. The Xbox 360, 42,330 units. The Wii, 26,852 units. The DS, 15,654 units. And the PSP, 7,294 units. And in America, the top-selling console was the Xbox 360, 73,747 units. The PlayStation 3, 56,760 units. The 3DS, 56,674 units. The Vita, 50,798 units. The Wii, 42,978 units. The DS, 23,075 units. And the PSP, 8,457 units. So finally, looking at the hardware sales for this week, or this past week, I should say, ending in March 10th, in Japan, the big seller was the 3DS with 68,503 units sold. The PlayStation 3 moved 34,267 units. The PSP, 15,819 units. The Vita, 9,944 units. The Wii, 7,963 units. The DS, 1,335 units. And the Xbox 360, 1,077 units. Over in Europe, it was the PlayStation 3, 60,834 units, the Vita, 57,614 units, the 3DS, 47,180 units, the 360, 40,973 units, the Wii, 25,230 units, the DS, 12,442 units, and the PSP, 7,504 units. In America, the top-selling console was the Xbox 360, 62,593 units. The PlayStation 3, 49,246 units. The 3DS, 45,945 units. The Vita, 35,723 units. The Wii, 34,842 units. The DS, 19,576 units. And the PSP, 6,734 units. So, globally, in the previous week, the one that I missed, it was the PlayStation 3 was the big winner, then the 3DS, the Vita, the Xbox 360, the Wii, the DS, and the PSP. In this current week, the big winners are the 3DS, followed by PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Vita, Wii, PSP, and DS. So that's what's going on. Hope you'll enjoy the show. We'll see you next week for the big season finale. Don't know how big it'll be, but hopefully it'll be fun. We'll see you then.